Hi folks, we're with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about three entitled women who I know personally, and I've recently sort of interacted with all three of them and had to listen to their stories of how they believe they've been denied, greatness, glory, fame, and prestige, and so on and so forth. Not by their own laziness or their own ineptitude or the fact that they've done, produced, created, and achieved nothing in their lives. As far as they're concerned, that greatness has been denied them by the patriarchy, it's by misogyny, it's by evil men oppressing them. And they are very much the victims of oppression. Even though all of them are living quite lavishly at a man's expense, they still perceive themselves as victims. It's hard to sort of get your head around that mentality. There's one lady, and she's been married and divorced 3 times. She brazenly admits that she targeted wealthy men, and she had her "I'm just a little helpless little girly victim, and you're a big, strong, hairy-chested man. Come and rescue me." She had that sort of trickery down pat, and she was able to target and sucker in wealthy men. Now you could say, well, more the fool them. If they suckered for that bullshit, then that's their problem. If they hadn't suckered it for it, but she targeted wealthy men, and under any other circumstances, this would be a crime. Conspiracy and premeditated attempt to defraud, which it was. But she was, well, they're wealthy, they're rich. Why can't I have what they have? So she has 3 houses, all in nice postcodes, plus a share portfolio that pays quite handsome dividends, really. She doesn't need to work. Now, the only work she ever did was as a trainee, as a trainee kindergarten helper. That was all she ever did. And then she worked because one of the men arranged this for her. It wasn't hers. It wasn't her idea. She didn't win it by any form of merit. Then she had a job as a script writer for some TV show, but she was a fill-in script writer. She didn't really have to do much, but got paid for it, and that didn't last very long. And again, that was she could never have got that without the guy she was going with fixing it up for her. So yeah, her real estate portfolio is about $10 million worth, and she has in share dividends after tax probably $150,000 a year coming in the door, and then of course she gets the rental income from the other 2 properties. And she lives in one of them rent-free. It's the completely owned property. So she has no debts and, quite a debt. She's not filthy rich. She can't go and blow $1 million on a holiday or vacation or something, but she's living in terms of Australia, she's in the richest 1% in total net assets and income. So she's doing very nicely, thank you. And she drives a nice car and wears designer label clothes and goes to nice restaurants, while all the time insisting she's a victim of the patriarchy. Now, when you ask her to explain the victimhood that she's got, she's got 3 houses and she's never had to work. What has she produced or done or created that would justify her view that she was or is entitled to this fame and prestige? And she can't answer it. She doesn't like the question and gets quite irritated with it. And if you're going to be like that, I'm just going to leave now. And if you say that again, I'm just going to get up and walk out of here. Now, I don't mind if she does. She's more known to my wife than to me. So if she got up and walked out, I just wouldn't give a shit. Actually, we were at her place, so I was invited to leave if I wanted to. So you can't even call into question. So she lives in this fantasy world that she would have been, a very famous person if not for the evil patriarchy. But again, she can't explain why someone of she didn't come from a poor family, but she comes across as being insanely lazy. And I guess she says her main skill, or the one she cultivated, was flattering weak men. So she targeted weak men who were very rich and flattered them with cooking, with telling them how wonderful they were, and so on and so forth, while all the while privately sneering at them and thinking, hey, you're a bloody asshole, but I'll crawl to you and suck up to you simply so I can get the free house in a few years. And she was very successful. So you could say her accomplishments at deceiving men are pretty good. I mean, if you can defraud three men over a 20-year time of a house and, a furnished house, share portfolio, motor vehicles, then, gee, you're doing all right, I reckon. But not the sort of thing I'd do. And again, the sort of the premeditated course of deception. She also adds that, well, I didn't want to be a kindergarten flunky for the rest of my life. And and this is really the rub, given that there are no opportunities for women to work outside of kindergarten, in her cognizance, she perceived this was the only career option she could have, and therefore, because no other or all other career options were high risk and performance and merit based, which in itself is misogynistic in her view. And she talks about a lot. Puts a lot of Marxist phrases out there while sitting in her very nice house in a very nice postcode. With pushing all this Marxist nonsense, which is funny. She doesn't see the contradiction. But she perceives what she has is an absolute minimum. The three houses, the income from shares and everything is an absolute minimum. She is entitled to that, and that's like an entry level entitlement. What she's really entitled to is the full set of crown jewels, and anything less than that means that she's the victim of misogyny and oppression and patriarchy and so on. So it's an insane, idiotic view of the world, but one that she clings to, and is quite convinced. You can see the sort of the way she talks about it. Yes, I'm a victim. Yes, I'm oppressed. Yes, I'm hard done by. But it's on a basis of relative entitlement. I'm entitled to everything, and because I don't have everything, I've only got half of everything. I am thus oppressed, and that's kind of her perception of the world around her. Now, for someone who's never worked and never made an income and never produced, created anything at all, to have the wealth that she has is remarkable, unusual, and a wow factor attached to it. But she doesn't see it that way. I worked for this. I had to put up with the bullshit of that weak idiot guy just because he was rich and because I could get a house out of him. So I actually have suffered as a consequence. Well, I suppose that's one way of looking at it. But the sense of entitlement is like, whoa. Now, here's another lady who again, she's convinced that she took up with she decided that the way to wealth was to become a professional mistress of a rich guy. That was it. I mean, she's not that good looking. I mean, I suppose she's kind of sexy in a way, but I wouldn't fuck her. But anyway, she's convinced that she's a victim too. Now, her decision, once she'd sort of left high school, she did some bullshit, sociology thing at university, and she looked at sort of the world, the hard work she'd have to do, the heavy lifting, the risks she'd have to take, the merit sort of interviews, the pass or fail type thing. And she looked at it and thought, I don't want any of that. Anything to do with merit, pass or fail, meeting a standard, delivering results. This is all patriarchy. It's all misogyny. It's just a miasma of misogyny as far as she's concerned. She doesn't want to be judged. She doesn't want to have to pass a test or do this. So what she wants is to somehow get all the fruits, if you like, of a rich society, but without having to do any of the work to get it. And she has this sense of entitlement. So she made the decision that her job, or the way she was going to go places, was to become the mistress of a rich guy. So she busily went about this and was successful in that pursuit. So she ends up, some rich guy, one of the richest postcodes of Australia. He puts her up in a very nice apartment, and he's quite, I guess he'd be plus 20 years older than her. He puts her up in furnishes it nicely and gives her all sorts of gifts, as in, diamond necklaces and Cartier watches and a nice car to drive. She gets it all that. On top of that, he fixes her up with quite a prestigious job. She wouldn't have had a snowball's chance of getting in one of the big international consulting firms. She gets inserted there as some bullshit fucking consultant, which is, given her zero expertise, is a bit of a thing. It's quite well paid. So on top of that, he's paying all the bills, taking her away on lavish vacations and this sort of thing. So she's doing very well, making many times the income she could make under any other circumstances. So she can also do things like, I want to take a year off because I want to spiritually find myself or something like that. And he agrees to, okay, well, I'll make sure that you can take leave of absence from your job, and then whenever you feel like it, you can come back to that same job without any loss of pay or seniority. Now, the normal mortals can't get that. So clearly he's very influential in this international consulting firm and is looking after her. And again, she's got no rent to pay. He's meeting all her expenses. She decides she wants to go to India to discover spirituality, then he pays for everything. So she's got that. Now, the only deal really is as he gets older and his health diminishes and that sort of thing, he comes over for sex less and less often, but keeps her in place for when he does want to do it. And when he wants to go on some international jaunt. So she's doing quite well out of this. He ends the relationship. The way she describes it, he's found a younger woman or something who does it for him, but he gives her in recognition of that. He makes sure she keeps her job, her quite well paid consulting job, which seems to mean she does nothing but gets paid for it. She gets to keep an apartment. Now, this apartment is in one of the wealthiest postcodes in Australia. Furnished with. It's not furniture from Walmart or something. We're talking antiques and the whole thing. She proudly answers she could sell her jewelry, because this is what he's given her, sell her jewelry easily for $250,000 plus, and so on. So she's doing very nicely, thank you. And so she gets to keep this well, it's more than 2 million. I think it was closer to 3 million when she sold it. This $3 million apartment in a very nice postcode. So she's never had to work in her life. She's now, I don't know, 50 something. She's never had to work in her life, and has all been taken care of. Has got real estate, and she also managed to buy a weekender up in the mountains during the relationship, which is again fully owned. So she's got she's not filthy rich, but she's in a very comfortable position. No debts, good income, a do nothing job. She's still under his protection in effect, and doing just very nicely. Thank you. Never had to work, never had to build, create, produce anything, never had to be judged, never had to engage in risk or anything like that, and living a life that would be the envy of many people. Again, she'd be in the top 2% of and all from this liaison. But she insists she's a victim, and again talks Marxist nonsense and Marxist language. Now here's the third. Well, I mean, they're all pretty similar. She comes from a wealthy family. She's as lazy as fuck. She comes from a wealthy family. has the family's purchased for a very nice apartment, again in one of Australia's wealthiest postcodes, panoramic water views, and she's divorced and also made quite a lot of money out of the divorce as well. So she's comfortable. She doesn't have to work. The family connections have got for her, again, a very prestigious job in one of these international consulting firms, where again it's rather vague what she does. I mean, she doesn't seem to know what she's supposed to do. But so she's got like a very desirable situation: prime real estate, guaranteed do-nothing job on a high income, prestige. She's got all the sort of bits. But again, she insists she's a victim of the patriarchy. She insisted that she should be the international CEO of the consulting firm. Why? Well, but she sees the world through and the lens of entitlement coming from her wealthy. She's been to one of the wealthiest girls' high schools in Australia, been to the most prestigious Ivy League university, all paid for by. But in her, and nor was she an outstanding student, by the way, far from it. But she's got a view of the world that she is entitled to greatness. Should she have to do anything to earn it? Well, no. She's just entitled, just 'cause. And therefore, anyone who disagrees with this or thinks she should have to work or do some sort of produce a meritorious outcome in anything, well, they're the oppressors, they're the misogynists. And if they want to hold her to a standard, then that's simply proof of their misogyny. And so this entitlement, which you could say is Gen Z and Gen Y, but it's a general concept of entitlement, that why should I have to work for anything? Why should I have to produce anything? And it indicates the very successful assault on hard work, merit, probity and prudential standards, and sensible behaviour, and these sorts of things. They've all been they're all now part of the wider white supremacy thing. So if you're a non-white, then you can say, well, all that stuff's white supremacy, hard work and merit, for goodness sakes. Impartially being tested and judged. Whoa! And from a woman's point of view, so this is where the race and the feminist thing sort of can't come together here, is that, again, any attempt to hold them to a standard is in itself proof of misogyny and white supremacy, Nazis and Hitler and so on. So it's all come. But to me, it's just an indication of how incredibly successful the attack on merit has been. And how it's attacked, the main supporters of merit are white men. And when merit is attacked in wholesale as it has, then white men are being held up as the example of the oppressor. Now, this idea of women being entitled and cozying up to men with money and power is hardly a new thing. It's been happening for a while. That it's so officially sanctioned today is disturbing. But if you look at whether it's Messalina and Agrippina and all those people in ancient Rome, or the women hanging around the Borgias and the Medicis in medieval Italy, and the list goes on throughout history of the scheming and the plotting woman behind the man with the power and this sort of thing. But today it's been officially sanctioned on a wholesale basis, and the consequences of it are what we see all around us. You've been fantastic today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.